Hey guys, welcome to Monday Motivation, and today we're going to be talking about how to teach your children work, service, and responsibility. Okay, so today's going to be a pretty quick video because I got to run in about 10 minutes. So I'm watching my clock, and in about 10 minutes, hopefully we don't get interrupted too many times. That's okay. So teaching your children work ethic, service, and responsibility is what we're going to be talking about today. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this specifically was, one, with having a new baby, there had to be a shift of responsibilities within the house in order to accommodate that new life in our house. So I talked about this in a Monday motivation video about preparing for a new baby. And I gave this example of our 3 about to be 4-year-old took over my 5-year-old's job of putting the silverware away. So each child is graduating from a chore and learning how to do a new one. So they're learning more responsibility. And I can't remember the specific statistic, but Harvard did a study that shows the success of people and how it's linked to what they were required to do as children. And I should do a reel about it too, because they gave like the overall statistics. But basically, the majority of successful people that have a strong work ethic and have excelled in their careers were taught as children to do childhood age-appropriate chores. So for example, we have table chores. And there's the same table chores that really always need done. Some things might change, like if we have a baby in a high chair versus if we don't have a baby in a high chair. Obviously, the high chair needs cleaned and sometimes it doesn't, things like that. But basically, we have a list of all the table chores that need accomplished. And then basically, you work your way up as you graduate from certain chores. So just to give you a general idea of age-appropriate chores that we do in our house, starting from our youngest to our oldest. So I just told you that our 3 about to be 4-year-old will put the silverware away. And sometimes it's super easy, forks, spoons, knives, or butter knives, whatever. But then sometimes there's measuring spoons, and he's got to learn where to hang the right measuring spoon, tablespoon, teaspoon, all of those types of things. So he's learning that. Our 5-year-old, he got promoted to unloading the bottom half of the dishwasher. Also, I should take you through our kitchen, because when we built this house 3 years ago, my husband's a contractor and we built the house together. I designed our kitchen to be child safe, but also effective in how we unload the dishes. So for example, our cups and our plates, sippy cups, those types of things are kept on the bottom drawers so that my little children can do that chore. If I kept the plates up high, in a tall cabinet, then they wouldn't be able to put them away because they can't reach them, or they're crawling on the counter, all that kind of stuff. So always put things that you want your children to have access to in regards to chores that they can complete low so that they can reach. So our 5-year-old unloads the bottom part of the dishwashers, which include plates, forks, plates, cups, bowls, those types of things. And then our next son, who is 6, he's about to be 7, he takes out the trash. So he's responsible for making sure the trashes are full. If they're not full, then he'll go around to like the bathrooms and dump the little trashes in there, ties them shut, takes them outside, puts them in the big trash cans, puts new bags in. So that's something that he does. Our next son, who is 8, and our 6-year-old has a counter to wipe off. So anything that's on the counter, he has to put it away and then, wipe off the counters. My other son, who, like I said, is 8, he is responsible for 2 counters. And again, I just want to preface before I keep going. Everybody, something that we teach all the children, and everybody is required to follow, is See a need, fill a need. I do not want to constantly be telling my children, pick that up, do that please, take care of that. I want them to see the needs that need taken care of and take care of it. So even though I'm going through what each child, age appropriately, to give you an example of what is required on table chores. And again, this is one room in our house. We can talk about laundry and all those things a different day, but logistically, I just want to talk about why it's so important to give children chores, age appropriate, to teach them work ethic. But I want them to see a need and fill a need, because what can happen is this spirit or attitude of, well, that's not my job. I'm not doing that. That's not my counter. I'm not cleaning it up. So yes, we have certain things that are assigned to each person so that the dog's not getting fed 10 times, or everybody's fighting over who is going to put the dishes away and then none of the dishes get washed. So there are certain things that need done, but the overarching attitude, which brings me to my next point, which I'm going to hit on, is service. I want my children to have a heart of service where they are serving others and not this entitlement, well, it's not mine. I'm not getting paid for that. I'm not doing that, right? There's a time and place for that, but I want them to have servants' hearts. So moving on, my 10-year-old daughter, she's responsible for the dining room and the breakfast nook. So she wipes off the table, sweeps, same thing with the breakfast nook, which is like a little table that we do breakfast and lunch in, versus a dining room table is where we eat supper. So she does that. And then my next daughter, who is 11, she's responsible for cleaning up the baby's high chair and putting leftovers away. So any condiments, any leftovers, she takes care of that. And then my 12-year-old daughter, she is responsible for doing the dishes and then sweeping the floor. I, as mom, am not assigned to anything because I help as needed. Wherever needs filled, maybe there's a ton of stuff on the counter that, my 6-year-old's not quite sure where it goes, or maybe there was a lot of dishes that needed done, so then I'll help, hand wash dishes or load whatever needs done. So that's why I am not assigned one, because I help anywhere that's needed. So moving on to having a heart of service, and I kind of explained it a little bit, but the character of my children is the most important thing to me. I really don't care if they can read or write. We obviously work on that every day, but my goal is to get them into heaven, not Harvard. And one of those things that I want them to do is to have a heart of service, to serve others and not have an attitude of entitlement and, well, I don't have to do this. I want them to be respectful, thinking of others. You show up on time to a job. If you're going to be late, you let people know, those types of things. Hang on one second. So teaching my children to have a heart to serve others. Yes, there's a time that they need paid, especially the boys, which that's going to bring me to another point. But I also want them more than that to have a heart to serve. So teaching work ethic, service, and responsibility is all wrapped up into how you run your home as the wife and mother and what you expect of your children. Also, I want to add, there is a slight difference between girls and boys and what you expect of them. I want my girls to know how to do manly chores like mow the lawn and change a tire and all of that. And I want my boys to be able to do girl chores like cook and clean and do laundry and all of that, those types of things. So there is that intertwining of learning both sets of skills from a, role standpoint. But they need to be able to do both. But one thing that I want to talk about, and this really came out in one of my book club discussions when we were reading Be Fruitful and Multiply by Nancy Campbell, and that is the responsibility to provide for a family strictly falls on the man biblically. So I am much harder and expect more from my boys than I do my girls. And the reason that I do that is because they are going to ultimately be responsible for providing for their family. So a couple examples of that will be, if something's heavy and they need help lifting it, I will really let them struggle to pick it up. And sometimes I'll even purposefully give them heavy things to do, like baskets of laundry that are super heavy or something like that, or trash. Some trash can be super light depending on what it is. But, you know, like my 6-year-old, he has picked up a bag of trash before and been like, oh, this is so heavy, Mom. And I'm like, well, take a couple steps, put it down, take a breath, take a couple steps and get it out to the trash. And that's what he does. And even though it's hard for him, when he accomplishes it, his confidence builds and he's like, oh, I can do this. So then he realizes that he can do more than he actually thought that he could. And then he continues to try harder. And we're talking about taking out trash. This is going to continue. Same thing. And we actually told them this the other day, that the boys will be responsible for buying their own cars. We are not going to be buying them cars. So my one son, he was like, oh, I've got like 8 years to save for a car. So we did the math and he would have to buy a decent truck at 16, 17. He's going to have to put like $100 away a month. I'm like, JD, are you making $100 a month? And he's like, no. So just making them think those things and helping them embrace the biblical rules that God has established for them, even when they're little. So that mentality of, you have to have a strong work ethic. And even as the woman to run the house, obviously, I just gave you an example of how, you know, there are things that I put in place to run our house effectively and smoothly. The boys, like I said, I'm definitely harder on them because of their role and what's going to be asked of them as men. And I don't want that to hinder them from being a godly man and doing the things that he's asked because I haven't trained them appropriately. So I hope that this video was encouraging. I hope it gave you some practical steps of how to teach your children chores, why work ethic is so important, especially for boys, why having a heart of service and serving God is so important, and of course the responsibility and how that impacts them later on in their life. So I know I talk super fast, but I hope that this was an encouragement to you, and we will see you here next time on Monday Motivation. Bye.